What's up, everyone? So today I'm super excited to share something I've been working on. So this is a fully functional AI power studio, right? And this particular studio is being powered by ElevenLabs API. So with this app, basically, you could create custom characters, choose your voices, right? Or you choose their voices, set up scenes, generate realistic dialogues using AIs, right? AI voices. Let me quickly show you how that actually works. So over here, we just have a Next.js application, right, running on localhost 3000, and we have two tabs. We have the character and the scene tabs. So for the characters, mostly, let's just try creating a new character. So for this character, we're just gonna call this character this first character, we could call it Nick Fury. We just add a name, right? Then we could choose a voice. So let's look for an American male. Then we could set the stability to 0.5. We could leave, I think this is okay. Then speaker boost, yeah. Then we could create the character. Okay. So after creating this character, we can see this particular character is actually in our scene, right? So characters in this scene. And we could get to play the voice of this particular character just to hear it.
Hello, this is a test of my voice.
Okay, cool. So we've been able to create a new character and we've been able to hear the voice, right? So the next thing we could basically do is go ahead and create a scene for our characters, right? But before we do that, let's quickly create another character here. This character, we could say this could be called Agent May, right? Then we're just gonna look for a female name. Let's look for Alice, which is a British female. Then we could set the style to 0.7, and the speaker boost is okay. We could create the character. Yeah. So we have two characters. So let's listen to how this particular character sounds.
Hello, this is a test of my voice.
Okay, nice. So we have two characters, right, in this scene. So let's quickly jump into the scene and create scenes for this two different characters we have. So first of all, we add a new line and let's quickly take Nick Fury. So first off, we want Nick Fury to just read out some dialogue, right? So it's just gonna be something this basic. Then we could add on that line for Agent Made to give a reply, right? So let's quickly paste this here real quick. And so we have Nick Fury and Agent Made. So these are only the particular characters that we have available on this application right now. So once we're done with that, we could basically generate the scene and get to listen to the scene. So let's try generating this scene. Okay, so we have a toast, scene audio generated successfully. So let's play and listen to how this sounds.
It was an idea. Bring together a group of people, best of us. Not because we were perfect, not because we were unbreakable, because together we had a chance to stand against the darkness when no one else would, fight the battles no one else could. It wasn't just about power, it was about purpose, an idea that maybe, just maybe, we could give this world a chance to survive, a chance to hope.
And look where that idea got us. Broken teams, lost friends, cities in ruins, families torn apart, a world hanging by a thread. You talk about hope, but hope didn't save them. You talk about survival, but survival came with a cost we're still paying. So tell me, was it worth it? Was that idea worth all we've lost?
Amazing. Cool. So we also have the option to download, right? We could basically download this and listen to it on our local system directly, right?
It was an idea.
As an MP3.
Bring together a group of people, the best of us.
This is mostly all handled, right, by the ElevenLabs API. So basically what we're doing here, we're just consuming different endpoints that is available from ElevenLabs, right? So this is the documentation. I'll leave a link to the documentation of ElevenLabs in the video description, right? So we're basically consuming different APIs just to make this work, and also using some states just to handle this particular application for us. So it's just something very, very basic, right? Where you just get to create characters. Like in our own case, we had Nick Fury and Agent May, and this is using the text-to-speech API directly, where we get to test how that sounds, how the particular character sounds. Then we have the scene where we could set up the scenes, right, for each of our characters, and we could just remove these lines and remove these lines. We have options to generate the scenes. We have options to play the scenes once it's generated, and we also have the option to download this particular scene, right, in case we want to use it, or we just want a saved version of the conversation. So yeah, so this is basically what we'll be building, right, in this video. So I'll just take you through how you could connect the 11Labs API step by step, right, using the Next.js Route Handlers. And mostly the UI is already set up for us, so we're not going to be worried about setting up the UI from scratch. We'll just be diving into the logic and the backend logic, right, with Next.js on handling how to consume these APIs and build out this particular features or this particular logic. So let's get started. Okay, so at this point we could start building out our application. So the first thing we need to do right now, we need to get our API key, right, from 11Labs. So we just want to quickly go through the documentation right now. So with the APIs, right, we can basically interact with 11Labs services. So let's quickly check out the product parts. So we have access to text to speech, speech to speech, sound effects, I think also music. We have access to voices and different workflows. Like this is basically what 11Labs offers, right? Let me quickly jump to the actual landing site so we get to see. So 11Labs basically they create the most realistic speech, right, with AI audio platforms. So what we're going to be doing in this video, we're going to be consuming their APIs, and let's jump right back into the API reference. So we have access to this particular API through npm. We're just going to be consuming their API through HTTP through an HTTP request. And to do that, we're just going to be doing it from our route handler. Okay, so if you familiarize with API route, that's the same idea around route handler, just that route handlers is mostly used in your app router, right? So mostly using your app router. So route handlers allows you to create custom request handlers, right, for a given route using the web request and response API. So you basically could just do this all from Next.js. You don't need like a different server just to spin up your custom requests, right? Your custom request handlers. So in this video, we're going to be using the route handler to handle this. And like I said, you familiarize with API routes. Basically, use API routes in your pages directory. But for we're just going to be using the route handler to handle this. There are a lot of videos out there to get to understand how this really works, right? But if you've got into like written Node.js applications or Node.js server, run a Node.js server, you should quickly or quite understand what's happening here. So you just have you're just being exposed to different methods: the get, post, patch, delete, head. Same method you get like in your normal server, right? But we're just gonna be doing this all from Nextjs. Yeah, so there's a lot of things to get to like explore here. A lot of videos out there from different creators on these different features. So let's quickly jump back to the documentation again. And this is just what we have. We are not going to be using the node library. So we're just going to be consuming it through the API directly. All right, cool. Now this is also our UI. So right now, if you get to look at this, we still have our UI working, but we don't have we don't have the real-time data, or we don't have the data directly from 11th Labs. Like I said, we're not going to focus on building the UI in this particular video. We're just going to focus on integrating the API through the route handlers, and that's basically what we'll be doing, straight to the point. Cool. So the first thing we need to do, we need to think about it. Like I said, we're going to be consuming 3 different APIs from 11th Labs, right? So the first API we'll need should be the voices, right? So if you remember, we had a list here where we are setting up our particular character, where we get to choose a list of voices, and we see different voices, their names, and their particular accents, and also maybe the gender of that particular voice. So we're going to be doing that with this first API. We're going to get this. This is the API we're working with. So this is just the URL, and we're just going to look at the response. It brings in the name, brings in the voice ID, very important because we're using the voice ID later. Brings in some other options, fine tuning, brings in the label, and preview URL, and we have like pretty much a whole lot of data, right, for this particular voice. So let's quickly start from there. So first off, to set up our API route, right, our route handler, we are just gonna create a file here called API, right? I think I could zoom this for us to see this properly again. So we have API, and the first thing we want to do, we want to fetch all the voices. So we'll quickly create a new directory called this voices, right? And inside the voices, we could create our routes. Route.js. I think we just make this TS, right? Since we're using TypeScript in this application. So we have route.ts, and mostly what this is just going to look like, we're just going to import our response and also try to hit that particular API, which we just take a look at on the documentation. All right, so let's quickly just do that. So the first thing we'll do here, we're just gonna like bring in the next response. So first of all, we're just gonna say import the next response from next server. Then we're just gonna export an asynchronous function, right? An asynchronous function that we're just gonna call you say function, this is gonna be get. Now if we go back to the documentation, I just want to show you why this is I actually want to show you how this actually works, right? So let's format this real quick and take this guy out. So if you go back to our application right now, right? Now remember, we just created an API route handler, right? That says, okay, we're getting we're just getting this data, right? Then next response, we're just returning a JSON. We return a JSON, the message of hello world. So for us to see this real quick, we just go here to our browser and say, okay, /API/ this is called voices. Then let's see if this works. We should get a response, right? Let's make this prettier. Okay, cool. So we have messages. So this is basically like an API route we could even consume in our application directly. So that's the whole idea. So we're gonna be consuming the 11th Labs API directly in our route handlers, then exposing it to our components in Next.js. That's just the basic idea. So we're just gonna bring this back here, and so first of all, the voices. I'm just gonna copy a piece of code here and paste and explain what's happening here. So basically, we're just importing the next response, like what we did. Then we're exporting our asynchronous function, then which is just a get request. They were looking out for our API key, which is very important because you need your API key to be able to hit the 11th lab APIs. Then we're creating a response using our inbuilt fetch method, right? Then we're hitting the API voices. Then we're hitting API 11th lab / voices. Then takes in an header, accepting our API key, and taking our application.json. So now if you're kind of skeptical about where this is all coming from, we could go back here and see where this is all happening. So let's quickly look at TypeScript code and see what we have, what we basically have here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I think this is basically it, right? So it takes in the URL and we have to pass in the API key. So that's just what we are actually doing here. Just taking the API key, passing it down, then sending our JSON. So in this line, we're saying if the response is not okay, so at this point we should have maybe an error, an API error, right? Then meaning that we couldn't actually get the data for all the voices. And so this API is supposed to return all the voices available on 11th labs server, right? So if it's not okay, then we're just going to return an error. Then else, we are just going to await the response, which is just a JSON, right? Then return our JSON. This is quite straightforward, right? Okay, cool. So if we do that, we could quickly jump right into our page. And I just want to show you where we are doing this. So we're fetching the voices. A normal use effect, fetching the voices. Then we're awaiting, then fetching /API /voices. So if it's okay, convert it to it. If it's not okay, right, throw an error. If it's successful, take the JSON, right? Then set the voices. We're setting the voices, right, to our particular voices. All the voices will fetch right now. Then this is just the particular state of what we're doing here. We just get the voices, then which is already set with our type. Then we could just map through it in our application directly. So if we check our UI right now, let's go back to localhost 3000. Okay, so at this point we should get all our voices. Okay. Okay, it doesn't work. So let's refresh the page real quick and see what could be wrong. So we said voices. Okay, nice. So we have all our voices. Now all our voices are being fetched, right? So we could fetch all our voices. All these voices are all coming from the API directly, as you can see here. So we can return all our voices when we are setting up a particular character. All right, cool. So that's out of the way. That's just the first step of what we need to do. Okay, so the next part of what we need to do now, we just need to think about, okay, let's create a character. Okay, so let's create a character. So let's say Nick Fury again. Let's select a voice. Let's say Charlie, right? Then we can leave these values and create the characters. Now, we've been able to create this character right now with audio details, right? For this particular character in this scene. Now we have a feature here. We need to listen to this particular character. If you try doing that, it won't work right now because that particular feature does not exist. Our API our API route handlers, right? Our route handlers does not exist to handle that for us. So we need to think about how are we going to handle that. So for us to do that, we are just going to say we're just going to go back to our APIs and create a generate API, right? And for us to do that, let's create another directory outside API. Then we're gonna call this. This is just gonna be generate, right? And then let's take this out real quick. Okay, so we have generate. So generate is also gonna be a route handler, right? So we're just gonna say this is just gonna be routes.ts. And what our route.ts is mostly gonna do right now is just gonna handle the generation. So before we do that, let me show you in the API documentation. So what we're trying to do now is this. Where is it? We're trying to generate a particular voice, right? And we're just gonna go back to text to speech. Yep. So basically, the text to speech converts your text to speech using our library of over 3,000 voices across 32 languages. So that's basically what we're gonna do in our generate. We're gonna take in this API key, which takes in the text of what we want to actually generate, right? And this is gonna return an audio for us, right? A particular audio we could use, or we could basically render to our users in the application. Now we have three different APIs we could actually use to do this, right? We have the text to speech, we have the text to speech stream, and text to speech with timing. I think for this video and for the scope of this video, we're just gonna use the text to speech stream, right? Basically, because why we're gonna be using that, because it converts the text, right, to speech in real time. Like you can see here, it says convert to speech in real time using our library of 3,000 voices. So we're going to be consuming this particular API, which is a post request, as you can see here. This is a post request, and let's bring back VS Code again. Okay, so basically what we'll be doing to generate is just something very basic, and I'll go through it. Yep. So what we're doing here is just a post request. We're setting a post request here. It accepts the request, right? And we are saying, okay, takes in the JSON, then we're taking out the text, taking out the voice ID, and taking out the settings. Now, this settings is basically those settings when you're creating a particular character. Those settings we are setting up, right? Then we're using our fetch, hitting our API, passing the voice ID. Now remember, if you remember, I said the voice ID is very important. Now, when you're creating a particular character, at this point, when you're setting a voice here, there's a voice ID attached to each of these voices. So that is the voice ID we're going to be using to generate this particular part, right? This particular text to speech for it to work here. Cool. So let's go back to VS Code and take a look at this. Then we're setting our API key again. Then this is just going to accept audio, because we're working with audios right now at this point. Then we're setting the text, and at this point we're setting the model ID. Then we're also taking the voice settings, which is the settings. Then if the response is not okay, we throw an error. Then if it's okay, we take in the buffer, convert it to a string, right? Then just send it to our component. Then I'll show you how we actually handle it directly in our component. So if you go back to undo test voice, right? So this is where we are hitting the generate. This is the route we just created now, right? So we're hitting the generate, which is a post request. We're passing in the text. Hello, this is the test of my voice. We're passing in the voice ID, which is the particular character voice ID. Then we're passing the settings, which is basically an object containing different settings for that particular character. So now, to show this in the UI now, we've been able to set up the generate, right? So if you say, okay, Nick Fury.
Hello, this is a test of my voice.
Nice. So we've been able to set up the generate part, right? Basically taking the text to speech to say, okay, take this particular text, convert it to speech for us, and return the audio when we're just going to use the audio on our front end here. Now, to show this again, we could just go down here to where we are testing the voice. This is our particular handler. So we're just gonna say hello, this is test of my voice. We could use something else. Say, okay, hello, this is hello, this is how I sound, right? Cool, amazing. So this is how I sound, and let's just see if that works.
Hello, this is how I sound.
Nice. So let's click on that character again, just to just for us to really get to feel this. We could say Sarah, then create this particular character. Now let's hear how Agent May sounds.
Hello, this is how I sound.
Nice. So we've been able to set the generate part, right? The generate API routes, or should I say the route handler for this particular application. Okay, so we could just create new Nick Fury all over again and set him up. And we could create Agent May and create Sarah and set this up right now. So with the generate, right, we could actually go ahead and also create the scenes, because at this point our scene is definitely going to work. Because why? We can actually generate audio from our dialogue, right? So we're just gonna do this. We're just gonna say hello world. We could add a new line and say, okay, Agent May, just an example, right? Then we could basically generate the scene. This should actually work for us. So we've successfully generated the scene. Then we could play the scene.
How are you, world?
Yep. And we could also download it. So this is all basically happening on this particular page. Now let me show you how we're doing this. So we're basically handling the generate scene, right? We're basically handling the generate scene, hitting the generate API route, which is also a post request, passing the voice ID, passing the particular text. Then if you look at this is actually happening inside a particular map, right? Because we have different dialogues, right? Or different cutscenes, right? So we need to make a map, and inside our map make an API call for each of that particular dialogue from different characters. Then once we get that, we get the audio, then concatenate the audio into one particular audio, right? Then set it in our states. Then at that point, when we click on play,
hello world.
How are you, world?
We get to listen to the audio. Then we also have the option to download this particular conversation.
Hello world.
How are you, world?
Yeah, so that's just the basic of how we could actually do this with the ElevenLabs API, right? So I kind of make this very, very basic and try not to go into too much details of the whole API and the whole implementation, right? Just trying to keep it very, very straightforward of what we're trying to implement here. So this is just one of the capability of what you could use the ElevenLabs API to actually build out. There's endless possibilities. It's nice to check out the documentation to see what you could actually build out with the text to speech, which is one of the most exciting API available. And they have also APIs, for example, APIs that could convert your video, right? Your videos from different languages, which is called dubbing, right? You could dub a particular video from English to Chinese, or from Chinese to French, or whatever. Those are all available through their particular APIs, through ElevenLabs APIs. Yeah, so I've come to the end of this video, and in the nearest future, I'm looking forward to making a very, very comprehensive video of consuming these APIs, building out the UI from scratch for those that are interested. If you definitely want to see such video, do leave a comment in the video description below, and definitely I'll work on it in the future. See you in the next video, and thanks for staying with me till now. Bye for now.